Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Is legal education the preserve of a select few? Is it another ivory tower that is being created? What is it to do with creating several impediments, restrictions when it comes to legal education? And I'm talking about the professional law course. Well, in recent times, we have seen that undertaking that students who aspire to enter the Ghana School of Law have to sign. No retaliating option available, no remarking options available. In fact, you cannot contend with anything that the General Legal Counsel determines to be the outcome of that examination. But is that the way to go? In recent times, some Ghanaians have taken a swipe at the General Legal Counsel for asking prospective students of the Ghana School of Law to sign this undertaking before taking their entrance or sitting their entrance exam. It has raised eyebrows across academia, general societal life, and more. Well, this morning, we get into that situation with our guests. Hassan Asari is President, National Association of Law Students. We also have Justice Abdullahi, a lawyer, joining conversation. Later on, we just might have a few add-ons of people that matter who can speak in a matter germane to the topic. But for now, let me come into the studio and say a very good morning to Hassan Asari, President, National Association of Law Students. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Great. Justice Abdullahi joins us via Zoom. Mr. Abdullahi, a very good morning to you.
Hey, good morning.
It's a pleasure having you. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Absolutely. For God and country always.
Great. I'll start with you. Your general overview. You are a lawyer, a crack lawyer, even if I have to say so myself. Okay, so I'll come to you. I know we have to do some adjustment when it comes to the technical bit. So, Justice, I'll come to you shortly. But let me come to you, Hassan. Your general overview, if I asked you today, when you look at legal education in Ghana, especially the professional end, what do you see? What would you say?
I see manipulation.
Manipulation?
Yes.
That's a strong word.
Of course. I see a group of people who are trying to micromanage the numbers.
Micromanage the numbers.
Yes.
A group of people, the General Legal Counsel?
Of course, it has to be. They are the administrative body, so I'll definitely lay it at their feet. That they are just trying to micromanage the numbers, not ready to open up legal education, and that is what I have to say from how I see it.
How about a step lower, if you like, not necessarily lower, but beneath or before the professional program, which is the LLB?
Yes.
Which is being run now by different institutions from CAF to Zenith to so many other institutions. Central University, of course, there are what you would call the orthodox institutions like Legon, which started it, and then Tech and UCC, among others. Yeah. The question has also been raised, and I have my own stance on this matter, but you must look at it holistically. The point has been made about the quality controls. How do you feel about that in terms of ensuring that we have the quality getting into law school? Because guess what? My friends in law school will also tell you that, look, some of the people even there at the Ghana School of Law, you would wonder how they got in, because the most basic concepts, they simply do not have a comprehension of. So what do you say about that?
I think, for lack of a better word, it's a bit lame to even use the word quality. Let me use Mawako as, yes, I'm referring to Mawako.
Okay.
Recently, I heard they were, the company was,
they were in a bad light on a
They were halted.
Yes.
From doing any business because of some food poisoning. That is if it is true. There are authorities in place to ensure that the faculties are meeting the basic standards. If you think the faculty is not, why not shut it down?
Right. I mean, I remember there was a time they were talking about, if you recall, in the papers, they were talking about a long list of things that these faculties have to do. In fact, libraries, for example.
Exactly.
At least my former faculty, the University of Ghana, you would have students from Gimpa and other places coming there because of the rich resources.
I used to.
You used to come there as well. Good. So At least that is the case in point. Some would say you don't even have a befitting library. When it comes to lecturers and all of that, you don't have the requisite, numbers or people across the spectrum of learning to fulfill this. That is a critical aspect to look at, right?
Who gave them accreditation?
Good
Why
point.
are we still keeping them there? Because I feel that sometimes, you see, I always say the problem with Ghana sometimes is about maintenance. If you have set the criteria, they have met it, and they decide to lower it, you should penalize them. You don't generalize these statements. I am not in the position to ensure that the right thing is done because that is not my job. If they think they want to employ somebody to do it because they don't have the capacity, they should do it. But they cannot generalize this statement by saying that because some people came and they are, for lack of a better word, stupid, everybody is stupid. That would be a bad conclusion to actually arrive at. Because we have these institutions to ensure that the right thing is done. So if you have to penalize them to make sure that the quality is coming up, that is your job. You shouldn't come to the public domain because I see it as an excuse. That is a job for somebody to do, so do it. And then when you are done with it, we can talk about other issues. I think it's just an excuse to just go on with what they are doing. That's basically it.
Let's talk about what the system was before. And we know that some of those who are now championing this new system did not have to go through what they are having others go through now, which sometimes sounds a bit, and you know me, I don't mince my words, sounds a bit Pharisaic to me. You remember in the Bible how Jesus would say, you heap burdens upon others that you yourselves cannot carry.
That's right.
So let's talk about what pertained in the past. You went through, well, back then, the only school available,
Yes,
Legon.
that's right.
You go through Legon. Once you pass Legon, it's a straight entry into the School of Law.
That's right.
No impediments, no interview, no examination, whatever. You are done. Once you qualify from there, you get into the School of Law. Things have changed. Do you feel we should go back, we should revert to the system we had before? What alternatives are available? Eventually we'll get to the undertaking and all of that, but I just want a holistic overview of legal education.
It would be good to take you back about 15 years or more ago, when they tried to expand legal education through the faculties. You remember the hustle and tussle that President Kufuor went through with these people trying to adjust. Now, Legon was the only institution. Then I think Tech followed, then GIMPA and other ones. Now, every reasonable...
Now we have the UPSA.
No, in fact, we have more. I think 14. Some have said 14, some 17. But I think it's 14. But let's assume it's 14. You would assume that reasonably, if we had only one Ghana law, we have only one professional law course institution, which is popularly known as Makola. You would assume that if we are increasing the faculties, then we should also find a way to increase the numbers because they are definitely going to move from the faculties into the professional law course. But we decide to keep it as it is and try to micromanage the numbers by introducing exams and interviews. Now, these things were not there. Now, if we are going to go by...
And of course, some of these matters had to be taken to court.
Of course. Professor Azar.
The entrance exam had to be scrapped and all of that. The interviews, so many things have been dealt with.
Exactly. These things have gone on for a while. Now, if I have to refer to what the president said last year, that we don't have capacity, it is a suggestion we have brought in over the period that if you cannot take them up there, as it had been from Legon to Makola, because of the numbers, then allow the faculties to also run the PLC, the professional law course.
Exactly.
So that you sit as an examining body to then supervise the examinations, and whoever meets the criteria is called to the bar.
And some people watching us may not get the real scope of what we're talking about. This is how difficult it is in the first place to get into law school. I'll not go to, what I earned as an undergraduate because it's irrelevant to the conversation. But my brother, as of the time when I applied to the Legon Faculty of Law, I assume there were 900 plus or over 1,000 of us who applied that. In fact, when I got there and I saw different centers, all full, I was wondering, hey, all these people won't read law.
That's right.
All these, let's say 1,000 plus people, whittled it down after the entrance exam there to about 300 thereabouts. Whittled that number down from the interview to 70 people. 70. What percentage is that? It could be what?
Less than
6-7%.
Yeah.
This is even worse of a ratio than some Ivy League institutions. That is how difficult it is just to get into law school. I mean, you can take out some of the others, but this is how difficult it is. Then, after going through all of that,
That's right.
you are made to appear as though you didn't even know enough.
That's right.
After passing all your exams to get into law school. So that really begs, the question, how do we then let the program trickle down? Because we've spoken about creating room for the numbers. We've spoken about the law village, for example. How do we get, this to trickle down?
I'm sorry to say that. I think the law village is just a gaslight.
You think the law village is just a what?
Gaslighting.
Wow.
Yes, of course. Because last year, when we talked about space and all that, they carried bulldozers to the site, showed us videos and pictures of all those things. What has happened to that? We are always using these kind of excuses like mass admission, they are building and they are expanding, but we are not seeing anything. You see, I'm sure you said when we get here, but let me touch on something real quick with our press release.
Right.
Now, this is a situation whereby nothing is happening, but you are making people feel like it is the student. Over the years, I can say that they have never had the mindset of opening up legal education, and I can say it on authority. You look at the kind of requirement they placed out there, the advert they made, and you can be able to deduce that the plan is not to open up legal education, but to micromanage. So some of these things, it's not that we are not aware that this is the mindset, because we can read in between and draw that conclusion. And over the years, it's not that students are, for lack of a better word, stupid. Sometimes because of their plans, they tend to take these decisions just to frustrate, just to let people feel you are not good enough. But I believe most of these people are very brilliant. And my submission has been one. If 5,000 people wrote the exam and one pass the person. But if the reverse also happens, I think we should enforce that provision.
Let me quickly get the thoughts of Justice Abdullahi as well. Justice, good morning to you once more. Hello, Mr. Abdullahi. If you're with me, you will have to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
Great. So I just want to find out from you. I don't know whether you follow the conversation with Hassan in the studio, but if I asked you today, what is the state currently of legal education in Ghana, what would you tell me? Very briefly.
I think it's a difficult one. We have gone beyond the stage where we ought to have opened up legal education for the people of Ghana. The statistics would reveal that we have barely 7,000 lawyers in Ghana, and less than half of them are practicing. Are practicing. The rest are in the corporate and with and in politics and other places that deprive them of having to put the expertise to the public domain. And so what you find is that even the state doesn't have lawyers. The Attorney General's office lacks lawyers. If you go to the 5 northern regions of Ghana, you have less than 20 lawyers put together, the entire 5 northern regions of Ghana, representing the state. And if the state is unable to have a decent number of lawyers to even represent itself at the northern part of the country, you can imagine how many private practitioners would want to practice from such areas.
I mean, from the last Congress or so, the last meeting of lawyers, I think it was the Upper East or West, one of them, had only 3 lawyers for an entire region. I mean, how can we even be happy about such a situation?
That's exactly the point I'm driving home. So if 5 regions put together cannot even boast of 20 lawyers, then clearly you should know that you have a problem. And it's not just limited to those regions. Even in Accra, where the Attorney General has his headquarters, where everyone else would want to be, the Attorney General's office doesn't even have enough lawyers because nobody would want to join. Well, the situation has improved a bit today compared to the past. But the point remains that even the entire 7,000 lawyers on the roll of the register are incapable of serving close to 40 million Ghanaians. this is a fact that cannot be disputed in any way. And of course, you should remember that not the entire 7,000 are even practicing. And I've given you instances of those who do not practice and those who are ill, those who, for whatever one reason or the other, just needed a legal education for their private purposes, not necessarily to put it to public use. And so we have all these extenuating factors that make it imperative for us to have more lawyers. And unfortunately, I am unable to understand and appreciate the position of the General Legal Counsel, which appears
but just hold for me. You're saying you fail to appreciate the situation, but this is the same General Legal Counsel that dispensed the exam you sat, and now you're a lawyer, right?
That is so. Well, you didn't get the position. My point is that I am unable to get their point when it comes to the opening up. It's very difficult for me to appreciate that position that keeps. Well, they've never officially advanced any argument against the opening up, apart from the former Chief Justice, who said in a lot of ways that because of the falling standards. But that's a very difficult element to measure, whether indeed there is a falling standard in legal education and whether that is a good enough a reason to continuously restrict access to legal education when we recognize that indeed we need a lot more lawyers in Ghana for obvious reasons. And so particularly with democracy comes with the activities of lawyers and their practice. We need more lawyers for obvious reasons that we may not have to list the basis. And so the point is that having come to this crossroads, the state even recognized through, at least by the intervention of the president and the building of the legal village at UPSA environment. But that is still a position that is still difficult to appreciate when all that needs to be done is to empower the faculties. The faculties, at least those that are recognized to be doing well, to empower them to run the various professional courses.
Quick question. Quick question. Why do you feel that is not being done? Because this is not the first time. I mean, the dean of my former faculty, the University of Ghana Faculty of Law, for example, has spoken about some of these matters, though he also sits on the General Legal Counsel. But the question is, why do you feel that is not being done to activate this and allow basically what pertained in the past to happen now, especially with the swelling numbers?
Well, as for what pertained in the past, it may be difficult to have that now, considering the numbers. In the past, we had barely 50, maximum 80 people who were entering the law school. And so you can't have the same structure existing today. In the past, as I think one of you mentioned earlier, the moment in fact, you didn't even need to successfully complete your LLB studies. So long as your tenure at the school is over, automatically you enter Makola, and then if you have any papers to erase it, you are even allowed to do that. So you didn't even need to pass in the past. But now you don't only need your certificate, but you actually have to also sit an exam and go through an interview before you can be considered, not that you be admitted, before you can be considered. And so the situation has completely changed. And so we can never have the past before us. However, what we can have is to have a better structure which empowers, assuming there are any difficulties, because so far, none of the arguments that have been advanced really, for me, holds. The fact that some of the faculties are not fit enough for purpose. I mean, it's an argument that I believe is quite lame, because it's the same faculties that produce the LLB students that are trained to be lawyers. And the same lawyers are the same lawyers who teach at the faculty. Ostensibly, the same lawyers are the ones who teach at the professional level, if not even better. But the faculties have not only academic qualifiers, but also have people with enough practicing experience, which is what you actually need to teach at the School of Law, the professional level. And so, if you combine the experience and the academic qualification of those at the faculty, you are likely to even come to that conclusion that they are even better placed to teach professional courses than those at the law school. And so clearly, the argument of producing substandard students would not hold if you take it from that angle. If you take it from the angle of availability of resources, that may be true to a limited extent, to particularly in reference to the young faculties, particularly from the private sector. But even with the private sector, if you read the last assessment, Wisconsin, for instance, was one of the best, probably one of the best by way of resources. I do not remember Central University, but I do think that they also came as part of the topmost in the rankings. And so if you go by that, clearly you can easily take out the not too good ones and then empower those that are doing well and possibly put in place measures that would ensure that they actively stay on top.
Right. So that we could very easily create a winnowing system to sift the wheat from the chaff. But here's why.
Very, very easy way out.
Right.
And if you go, you can't. It will be very difficult for you to convince me that University of Ghana, Cape Coast, GIMPA, UPSA do not have quality library with enough resources to train. That's an impossible argument to make. If these institutions alone, at least the 5 public institutions that are training lawyers, are good enough to train LLB students, who are the bulk of those who are admitted at the professional level, then upon what basis would you deprive them of the ability to train the professional students? Really, it's not as if the courses that are taught at the professional level are any different or harder or in any way more complicated than those that are taught at the LLB level. It doesn't exist. That's not how it happens. In fact, it is never the case. Indeed, if you go into the course outline, you probably come to that conclusion that indeed the courses, the procedural courses taught at the professional level are relatively easier than the hardcore law that are taught at the LLB level. So it would be unjustifiable to deprive a faculty that has trained students who are who you feed to the professional level, and turn around and accuse the same faculty of not being incapable of training the professionals.
So that's
it's a very difficult argument.
That's an interesting turn. Before I come back into the studio to Hassan, 2 quick questions. So one, maybe the first one is not so much of a question. I myself, and I've said that maybe I'm using myself as a scapegoat because I know this is a slippery slope and the system can bite hard. But hey, someone has to say some of these things, whether the system likes it or not. So you expect me, Justice Abdullahi, looking at what I do, you want me to up and leave, just pack bag and baggage, quit my work, because that is what it basically means. Quit my work, lose my source of income, at least one stream of my source of income, and just basically somehow magically take a hiatus of 2 years, go to law school, and how I'm going to finance myself, finance my education. And mind you, legal education, where you're looking at the fees right now, the 17,500, almost 20,000. You're not talking of books. You're not talking of other things you need. You're not talking of how you would dress. And then there are stipulations for all of these. So let's say averagely, Hassan could confirm, maybe 25 to 30K every he's saying 50.
Fueling.
So yes, driving to work. So let's say 50,000 a year, just to take care of all of this. And somehow you want me to magically do that without continuing to work. In other jurisdictions, I know there's accommodation, just like how we have the EMBA programs and other programs, so that I could even come here, do what I do, and in the latter part of the day, I go to, law school for the professional course. All of that is not being done, and the system, again, has been so constricted that you don't know what to make of it. You can respond to that, but the other bit, what I also see, and I personally have seen questions, in the past, in exams that I did not sit, floating around on certain pages, questions that showed up in the professional law, exam, entrance exam. And you ask yourself, so because of these impediments, people will do everything. People will cut all sorts of corners just to get into law school. Recently, you heard as well of the situation where one of their papers had to be cancelled and all of that. This is where we're getting to, because when the system becomes so stringent and you can't even rely on work anymore, then people rely on all sorts of things. Your quick reactions to that, and then I'll come back into the studio.
Right, indeed. As you rightly pointed out, my argument has always been actually for your first position, that we can have the system pertains elsewhere. In fact, indeed, the people that we learned it from, the UK and then the US, they do not have the block, the brick sitting there where a person would have to go and sit down like a BEC student from morning to evening. And that's what pertains at the law school. You have to go, in fact, as early as 6 a.m. lecture starts. And it closes as late as sometimes 6 p.m.
Right.
On the, or at least 3 times in a week. I mean, this is not different from a BEC student. At your age, that is clearly not a wise decision. I mean, something to do. I mean, at this age, and most of the students who go to the faculty. I mean, sorry, who go to the, in fact, even from the faculty to the professional level, are about 30 years. Now, these are productive youth who are also dependent on, sometimes by parents, family, and friends. Now,
who have dependents.
Naturally. Now, as part of the requirement, this person would have to leave his work for a minimum of the period of time that he will be a student, just because of tuition that he could have had in another way. And as I was pointing out, in the UK and the US, you buy your books, you can sleep as much as you want. At the end of the day, come and sit the exam. If you pass, you get caught. If you do not pass, it's entirely your business. You can sit the exam as many times as you wish. There are no restrictions. Now, this is a more modern way of looking at things. You do not necessarily have to build all kinds of structures from resources that you do not even have. Why would you have to go through all of that when all you needed to do? WAEC has never built any building anywhere. Yet WAEC supervises exams of the entire West African countries. They do not need to build for anybody to go to school.
Monopoly.
They do have exams.
Hassan in the studio just whispered monopoly. Is that what you feel it is? Monopoly. To monopolize the situation, to be gatekeepers where gatekeeping maybe is not even necessary.
WAEC has a monopoly. They've never had any challenges. They've never had any challenges with anyone. And it's not because of the monopoly. It is because of our decision to allow things to remain the way they are.
Why?
Notwithstanding arguments, indeed positive and indeed quality arguments to the contrary. We see the right things, and yet we feel we ought to go about things the way we want. And sometimes it's so difficult to say, as you said, because the system can bite really hard.
Yeah.
Really, if you make your words. And so in addressing some of these issues, it's so difficult to point out the rot and be able to make your argument, fine argument, that would be so acceptable without the person feeling hurt. Because somebody is sitting down and looking at your face and okay, don't worry, you meet us one day. We will deal with you. If you remember the case of Dafia Mapoy and I think another MP, simply made a decision, a legal decision, a parliamentary decision to amend the laws governing the General Legal Council. Warnings were issued all over.
That's true.
And I can tell you, these threats were not empty threats. They were threats that are coming from people who could enforce these threats. And so it's so difficult sometimes in a democratic world for you to be able to advance quality arguments without having to be victimized.
Right.
But the truth is that what the system we have today is not the right system.
Right.
And we must modernize. We must adapt to modern trends.
I like the end, Justice Abdullahi saying the system we have today is not the right system. We must modernize. Like you said, you don't even need the edifices, the buildings. Just create the system. Prepare, read your criminal law, read all the other aspects, your contract law, get ready. You go and sit the exam. You pass, you pass. You don't pass, you don't pass. And a quick one, though, very quickly, it just came to my mind before I bring in Roxanne Nelson, Dafia Akakpo. What do you think about sitting an exam without knowing the pass mark? Justice, just in some 10 seconds.
clearly that is unlawful. It's against the right of anyone who said that exam. It's clear unlawful, and it's so difficult to even understand why anybody would think of such a procedure.
Right.
Because these are, and I think it will not be enforceable. Actually, it can't be enforceable because really, if I sit an exam, even after signing this, and you deprive me of the outcome, I mean the knowledge of the outcome, I can simply invoke the what's it called, the right to information.
Right.
And so really, it's a complete nullity to even do this. It's needless.
Okay.
I don't even see in that. What is anyone hiding?
That's the question. What do you have to hide? That's the question. Justice, just hold for me. Just hold for me, Justice. I've lost your sound, Justice, but just hold for me. Let me bring in Roxanne Nelson.
The system is partly to blame.
Right. The system is partly to blame. Let me bring in Roxanne Nelson, Dafiamekpo. Thank you so much, Roxanne, for joining the conversation.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Please speak up for me, Honorable. He's a member of Parliament, of course, and also a legal brain. Roxanne, do tell me, sitting an exam, do you corroborate what Justice is saying, that it is illegal, basically, to say you're setting an exam? First of all, the people cannot seek retallying. They cannot seek remarking. They cannot seek anything on the back of the exam. And even to throw a bigger spanner in the wheel, you say that, guess what? You shouldn't even know what the pass mark is. So it is there. I determine, as General Legal Counsel, whether you passed or failed. Is that legal?
Now, for us to even determine the legality or otherwise of the notice that they put out, which they followed it up with the guaranteed form, which has become very topical. Is the question whether what the General Legal Counsel seeks to do and continue to do constitutes an examination. Clearly, you recall our fight 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and last year. You recall how the General Legal Counsel came out to say that as many students as 499 in this country wrote the law school exam and failed.
Right.
And went to court to actually tell a court of law that truly those students failed. As we speak, the General Legal Counsel did a U-turn to admit those students. They just wrote their part 1 exam.
Right. They are the University of Ghana.
They just wrote, it took us 6 months of battle with the General Legal Counsel before they buckled. So, my brother, even to enter hell, to go to hell, there's a criteria which is known to everyone, and that is to sin. The Bible says when you commit sin, you go to hell.
The wages of sin is death.
Even
right.
to enter hell, there's a pass mark. You need to commit a sin. How is it that an examination will be conducted in this country, and the people who are supposed to be the doing of implementation of laws in this country will tell us that the pass mark cannot be moved, and when a person participates in the exam, he has no right under law to ask for a remarking. Then that is no examination. That is a selection. Even to select people.
You say that is no examination. It is a selection.
That is selection. Even to select people, there is a criteria to selecting people. So I just don't understand what the General Legal Counsel is doing. They want us to fight against this year, and we shall fight them.
How exactly are you going to do that? I mean, they are the General Legal Counsel, and it appears once they speak, they have wide powers that they have shown can be enforceable against students, especially.
They don't have wide powers. The General Legal Counsel is the creator of statutes. So within that law, they have limitations. The law gives
I get you, but I say that because over time, some of you members of Parliament, for example, have said this and that. You've expressed opinion. What has that resulted in? Nothing, not much.
No, but we achieved some results. It is because everybody has been afraid to tackle the General Legal Counsel by the nature of its composition. The General Legal Counsel is dominated by justices of the Supreme Court.
And that was a matter I was even about to get to. About 5 of them, as Professor Kweku Asare makes mention of. Why should that be?
Hello?
Yes, why should that even be?
Because that is what the law says, and that is why we are seeking to amend the law in Parliament. As we speak, there's a bill before Parliament. And let me also add that 2 years ago, some students were admitted to the school without writing any examination. This is a matter of public record.
Yeah.
We've been asking the General Legal Counsel to provide the names of those students. They have failed to do so. And it's a matter that is pending. Just last year, we were told that some students didn't pass. It turned out that they passed. This year, I have some evidence that some persons have been admitted to the bar without passing all the required courses and the law.
And Roxanne, you say things that I am fully aware of. And that is why I'm going to ask the next question, which a lot of people will find very uncomfortable. But this is basically representative of our legal education. This is the body that basically regulates this. Is the General Legal Counsel itself corrupt, so to speak?
Is the General Legal Counsel itself what?
Corrupt, so to speak. And I use corrupt here, not necessarily in the sense of taking a bribe or engaging in any such thing, but activities that should not apply that are applying. Like you said, someone has not passed, the person is in the school. Someone has not passed, the person has been called to the bar. How should that happen? And in the interim, there are people who qualify to be there who have been sidelined.
Now, if you ask me whether the General Legal Counsel is corrupt, there are evidences of corrupt activities going on. And so these are matters, that is why, for instance, we are asking for amendments and we are asking for an inquiry. As we speak, I have filed 2 questions directed at the Attorney General to come and answer in Parliament regarding the circumstances surrounding how some students were admitted to the Ghana School of Law without writing an exam. He's here to come and answer to those. The General Legal Counsel has conducted a disciplinary inquiry to those matters. I've filed a question asking for a copy of that report. It is yet to be provided. So
so you see how difficult it is when people talk about.
But let me make the point that if a creator of statute, a public body that is established under law, decides to operate in such an opaque manner, then of course it will attract the kind of attention it is attracting. And it is not healthy. So the General Legal Counsel should be prepared because we are coming. We will fight them to reverse this directive and to withdraw this guarantee form. This guarantee form, I don't even think that in Saddam Hussein's Iraq, it will be given to students to complete and endorse.
Right, and I'll just get to that form. But you see, when Justice Abdullahi was talking about, if they'd failed to disclose the pass mark, for example, you can trigger RTI and all of that. You see some of the things that impede these processes, because guess what? You're a member of Parliament, and even you are not able to get the GLC to get past its opacity and answer some of your questions. So you see how difficult it would be for Hassan, for other students to get same. So that is just how serious the matter is. But let me read this undertaking to you. I know you've seen it, but for the sake of those who may not have seen it or heard.
I've tweeted the entire content.
Great. So let me read the undertaking, not necessarily for your benefit, for the benefit of everyone else watching. This is what the undertaking says. Undertaking of professional law course applicant. The General Legal Counsel has over the years established credible, rigorous, and well benchmarked systems and procedures for assessing answer booklets and rechecking of same for all candidates before examination results are released. Basically, this to say we don't make mistakes. Thus, the decision of the General Legal Counsel in respect of the published results of the entrance examinations shall be final. No request for remarking of scripts, retallying of scores, or review of marks shall be accepted. I think here the of is there's an error. Candidates cannot also request to see their marked answer scripts. Candidates cannot also request to see their marked answer scripts or the marking schemes used for marking the questions. This last line, in view of the above, I undertake to accept without question the decision of the General Legal Counsel in respect of the published results of the entrance examination as final. Then you put the dates there, you sign, you append your signature, and then you put your name there. This is what our brothers and sisters have to contend with. Your quick thoughts on this as I come into the studio with same for Hassan. Roxanne.
Yes, one, every constitutional right that the students have to access in such circumstances, this undertaking seeks to take those rights away. Two, in Hitler's Germany, even students will not be given space to endorse. Three, the General Legal Counsel says that I am setting an exam for you. I will neither disclose the passing mark, nor the marking scheme, nor your right to request for a remark, or even to view your script. Those rights will be denied you. And this appears to have been endorsed by the Board of Legal Education in the Republic of Ghana in 2022. The whole thing is reprehensible. It's unacceptable. It has no place in our modern constitutional order. So we urge the General Legal Counsel to do the needful, to withdraw it, and draw up a more appropriate legally binding guarantee form.
Just quickly, Roxanne, I know that per the law, especially in contractual terms, if you frame a contract and the rights of people, if it goes contrary to the tenets of the Constitution, you can frame your contract, but once, even that person may sign it, but once it goes contrary to those basic principles, that contract may be declared void. Do you feel this applies in this case?
Yes, but you need to go to a court first of all. Why must that happen? Why should I have to go to court for a court to pronounce that the content of this guarantee form is reprehensible, it's a nullity, and therefore it's reprehensible and it's unconstitutional, and therefore a nullity? I don't have to go through those stressful processes. The law school ought to know. The law school ought to know. We have over 5,000 backlog of students who are seeking to enter the law school. We are asking for reform. And yet, a body that is supposed to introduce reform is rather introducing retrogressive process. I've been numbed by the context of this document, honestly.
Right. It has shocked even you. Did you just say you found it shocking?
It's shocking. I'm numbed. I've been struggling to put words together to describe what they are giving out to students. And the exams will be written in September.
Yes.
And we've just entered August.
Right. Hold it for me, Roxanne. For those of you watching, in case you didn't get that, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakbo is saying he has been numbed, shocked, basically, by this undertaking for entrance to the law school. But let me come into the studio. Hassan, so, with some of the things I am discussing, what it means is that I could be victimized. And I have accepted that if that happens, so be it. So you don't know what the pass mark is. Benjamin Akakpo could sit the exam 10 times, and each time they will tell you, oh, you didn't make it. Because, that guy, he did TV top, they run him out. He's always, speaking against the system and what we stand for. So you know what? Fail him. And it's okay. I would have no way of saying or checking to show that, hey, I actually did not fail. That is one aspect. Let's quickly respond to this undertaking, and we'll take a look at your statement.
Okay. On that matter, I mean, with regards to the undertaking, I had the discussion with Honorable Roxanne. Now, on that matter, we've gone to court, where you sign and then you go to court. So we've signed, we've gone to court, it's been declared unlawful and void. But even that, it is still being enforced. The painful side is, these are people who should know. They should know that what they are doing is not right. Now, how do you tell me to get into an exams? No problem, I'm getting into it. I don't know the pass mark. That is contentious, but let's leave it aside. Now, you are saying that I cannot have the right to remarking. I cannot request to see the marking scheme. Now, under Article 296.
So what does that basically mean? Then what marking scheme? What if there's even no marking scheme? Who would know?
Exactly. You see, for me, unfortunately, we don't have that much to discuss all this. But the point is this. Even when they accuse students that they are below average, that is for them. You sneak people behind, you put them inside. Are you sure that is not the kind of people that are messing up things? That's the question I have to ask. Those 10 people who did not take the exam, who possibly do not have the qualification, possibly are the guys or people who are denting the reputation of the institution. So don't blame it on people who have gone through the system, had the benefit of being tutored properly, passed the exams, and then you say I'm denying you because of some people who are messing up. Did I put those 10 people there? Obviously not. Let me go down. If you are saying that you give me access to my script or tallying or the marking scheme, what are you doing? What is the interest? What are you trying to push? That's the question I ask every time. Because
what is the agenda?
Exactly. It's just trying to, one is to micromanage, which I know, I've always said it, and I feel this is unconscionable. No reasonable person can look at this thing and feel it is okay.
But it's interesting you say that. Guess what? The deans of our faculties, the major ones, and Supreme Court justices, and all of those are there, and they feel this is very conscionable.
I beg to differ.
You beg to differ?
Yes, but I think they rather have an agenda that they are using some of these things to push. Because this situation, I've referred to...
What agenda?
Well,
still agenda? What agenda?
I cannot really speak to what, because I can't really read the conscience. But the point is, why do you tell me to write an exam? Look, this is the point. If I'm entering, I cannot have these rights. But when I'm in the professional law course and I fail, I have those rights. What are you trying to do? Double standards? Must somebody call you to order because of these things? I think this is unreasonable. Somebody should sit up and know that this does not work. It doesn't. In fact, I'm trying to control it, but it's unacceptable. We shouldn't be encouraging some of these irresponsible behaviors.
On the back of the 499,
yes,
out of which I have a number of friends who would have been denied legal education but are now thankfully in the system, what does it show? Because like I said, there's a portion of the undertaking that I just read that basically paints the picture that we are infallible.
That's right.
We don't make mistakes. In fact, let me just go back to that so you'll see what I'm talking about. It says here, the General Legal Counsel has over the years established credible, rigorous, and well-benchmarked systems and procedures for assessing answer booklets and rechecking of same for all candidates before examination results are released. Thus, the decision of the General Legal Counsel in respect of the published results of the entrance examination shall be final. What this means is we don't make mistakes.
499.
Yet the 499, that is exactly the point I'm making. The 499 who are deemed to have failed,
yes,
in a system where we all knew it was 50%, and all of a sudden it was 50% of Section A, 50% of Section B, now are in the University of Ghana pursuing their legal education professionally.
Do they have oversight responsibility over the law school? If the answer is yes, when students fail there, they call for remark and sometimes they pass. So how do you say you are not fallible? This is a human institution. And some of these things are inevitable. So they cannot really say that we've been perfect. And in fact, if you've been perfect, how come suddenly, last year, you bring a retrospective decision to say, you know what, we don't want you to just come through because you passed the mark, even though possibly somebody has had 78. As per the new rule, even though you had 78, you cannot come through, but one who has 50 can now come through. If they weren't fallible, they should have put in that clause way before we got to that point that we got to. And we had to fight it all of the way until the 499 were taken. Now, the issue of we are not fallible, I don't think would actually fly, in my opinion.
We are not infallible, basically. But let me bring in Justice Abdullahi. You followed the conversation. When you look at the statement of the National Association of Law Students, they talk about predetermined admissions based on the numbers as even presented to Parliament, the undisclosed pass mark, this illegal undertaking, as they call it. And they also dispute the unreliable claim. Let me just read details of that for you. The NALS disputes a claim in the said undertaking purporting that GLC has over the years established credible, rigorous, and well-benchmarked systems and procedures for assessing answer booklets and rechecking of same for all candidates before examination results are released. For you, in the end, what picture does all of this paint, and what is the way forward? Because it appears that the system, the General Legal Counsel, wants students willy-nilly to toe a certain line. And it's either their way or the highway. What do we do?
So, you see, Ben, all these discussions and the name calling comes about as a result of the seeming unreasonable posture of the General Legal Counsel. From where I sit, I believe that this could have been avoided because this is an unnecessary exercise. The students could have the exam sat with or without, in fact, without any of these undertakings being made. And at the end of the day, out of transparency, results are published, full results. This is what I have known the General Legal Counsel to be, at least at the time that I was there. Results are published in full. And so everybody knows his score, you know why you failed and why you didn't fail. I think having such a transparent system only advances their credibility and makes us all look better and look good in the public domain. And so I do not think having an undertaking, I don't even know how that undertaking benefits the General Legal Counsel. I am sure they are doing all this because they would want to have a smooth sailing admission without any decisions before a court of law or any other forum where disputes would arise. But I think it's needless. If your system is transparent, if they put in place that transparent system and make it so open for everyone to see what goes in and what goes out, they wouldn't need a guarantee to save themselves from litigation and name call. You don't need all of that. Just be transparent. After all, the Ghana Law School is not a private entity. It doesn't belong to an individual. It doesn't belong to the CJ or the members of the Supreme Court justices. All of us would have to see ourselves as serving the people of Ghana. At the end of the day, we would all leave whatever we met behind. Someone else would take over. Now, if you remember this, you would ensure that you do things to the benefit of all of us without having to pretend that you have thank God today, because tomorrow you will not be there. You will never be there tomorrow. So if you do it better today, all of us will be the beneficiaries. The ultimate beneficiaries will be Ghanaians. It could be your grandparent, your grandchild, or your great-great-grandchild. If you leave a good legacy today, that person will be the ultimate beneficiary. We should not make ourselves look like we are next to God. I do not think that posture helps anyone. We should leave a good legacy. We should build a solid country, a good country that we would all smile back the next day or in future when we are no more here. I think if you remember this patriotic conduct, there is no way we will need any form of undertaking that clearly is condemnable and unacceptable. We do not need any system that would make us look evil when we could actually do the things, for the very things that we've been fighting for as a nation. And the members of the General Legal Counsel, you see, it is easier to accuse the body as a whole, but individually, I know there are those who do not agree with some of the things that go on. But because it's a body, sometimes you appear to be part of a bad system, when in actual fact, you are not. And so, my edge and my call is that let's build a transparent system. Let's build a good system. If we cannot have the kind of modern system that other people have adopted that is helping, if we cannot have it today, We shouldn't have a crooked system. We shouldn't have a system that makes all of us look evil. If we have nothing to hide, we should be transparent. We should be open and allow the system to run efficiently. This way, we would all be happy. And we build by that a good country for posterity.
Right. I forgot one thing that maybe we should just run by in terms of this undertaking and salient points you've made there, but even the bit about having to sign off that you are not working, all that also eventually comes in. And very interesting dynamics, really. But let me move on as well to Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. Per my checks, you would have something between one lawyer to 7,000 up to about one lawyer to 10,000 in Ghana. That is the ratio. Between 1 is to 7,000 and 1 is to 10,000. One lawyer per 10,000 in Ghana. That is our reality. Anyway.
And that's correct. And that's the correct position.
Yes.
As I said,
yes.
Unless I give 40 million, gives you an average of 8,000 to a lawyer. 8,000 people to a lawyer. And that excludes corporate institutions and state institutions. If you add all these as persons, then the numbers could go higher. And notwithstanding all of this, and this is the time that we need more judges. If you check with the CJ's office, he will tell you that he needs more magistrates, more judges at the High Court, and the Superior Court in general.
At the Attorney General's department, we need them.
In fact, the state institutions you can't even talk about them. The Attorney General's office is even better if you compare it to the other state institutions, like the IOCOs, like the police service, and all the other state institutions that make daily use of lawyers. They do not even have it at all. They don't. And so sometimes, in fact, if you go to the the legal aid scheme.
I was just about to mention that. I was waiting for you to land.
And not even one. Not even one. And this is an institution that is funded to protect the minority and those who do, the poor and the vulnerable in society. This is that institution that is established with that intention. And so what it means is that those of us who cannot afford the services of lawyers, this is our mother, this is our father. And that institution has nothing. No resources, no lawyers, no logistics. As a matter of fact, I do know for a fact that the officers there, the paralegals and the lawyers would have occasionally, most of the time, have to fund activities from their own pocket. And I'm a personal victim of it. Because at the point, I was probably one of the highest recipients of legal aid clients. And some people will come and you even have to give them money to go back home. You print everything for them for free. You go to court for them for free. If you mistakenly do something, the same people would even report you to the General Legal Council. The poor that you're protecting. And so it's got to a point where the legal aid scheme has to hire private lawyers, like myself, to do their works for them at a discounted amount of 20% of what you would have been entitled to. And even that one, it takes 3 years, 5 years sometimes to get it. Sometimes it never even comes.
Interesting dynamics there, Justice Abdullahi. We're very grateful. We don't have all the time, but we're very grateful you've shared these very illuminating thoughts. Let me bring in Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. What is the way forward?
Now, clearly, what the GLC has done is an infringement of Article 296, which is the bulwark provision against abuse of discretion. 290 is very clear that in the exercise of discretion, a public officer ought not to do so whimsically, capriciously, and the fact that it must not be abused. What we have seen is an abuse of discretion in a very whimsical, capricious manner. And it behooves on all of us to check this excessive, this vile exhibition of sordid power by the GLC. We will have to go to court on this matter. But you see, the tragedy is that this is happening when the courts are we are on legal vacation.
Yeah.
So if you file any process, and the other tragedy is that the Supreme Court doesn't do a vacation court. It's only the High Court that does the vacation court. So you are thinking whether you should challenge this on constitutional basis, or you should challenge the fact that it's a human rights fraction. So you rush to a High Court. And it's an avenue that is open to a few persons who have called in and speaking and receiving. We cannot allow this to stand. This is even look, even the colonial government didn't do this to us. Even colonial government didn't do this to us.
Right, Roxanne, even the colonial administration wouldn't do this to us. Is this something that...
they wouldn't.
Is this something that the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee would want to take up? Is it something you would get your compatriots in Parliament to look at?
Again, the tragedy is that Parliament is on recess until the middle of October. So the only avenue available for us to take this is the court of law, is the vacating court.
So very finally, I mean, you're going to contest this legally speaking, and it just has to do with the fact that the courts are going to be on recess, and we'll have to play the waiting game. So just like the 499, maybe these people will be denied something initially, but then eventually, I do not know how this will pan out. Eventually, if there's any ruling to the effect that there were some illegalities, maybe after, post the fact of the examination, I really don't know how that would pan out.
Indeed, I have made a call that all the prospective candidates should boycott the examination for this year. Every prospective LLB holder who intends to enter the law school to boycott the examination until we have a redress on this one.
Thank you very much, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakpo, Member of Parliament for South Dai, also a member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. I'll wrap with you, Hassan. And Justice, I do not know whether you're still with us, but thank you so much for your time, Justice.
Yeah.
Justice Abdullah is a lecturer with the University of Professional Studies, Accra School of Law. Let me wrap with Hassan in the studio. What is the way forward?
Before I talk about the way forward, let me just start on this.
Quickly, so I'll give you some 3 minutes maximum.
That's awesome. So in the Ghana case, this was declared unlawful and void. Now we are looking on to still enforce same, and that is one of the concerns I have. Something that has already been determined by the court. Exactly. And you have, justices as part of the GLC. So they are looking onto it as though a decision of the High Court should not be treated with seriousness, or should we can ignore it, which is unacceptable. The way forward, we think that the only hope we have as it stands right now is to look at the laws when it comes to the GLC. One is the composition. The introduction of a private member bill will be super, because it will define all these issues and try and clean it up in one way or the other, where the IEC or the GLC would not have the capacity to be writing such things just for students to follow. Because if the Parliament decides to draft and enforce an LI, a new provision, I'm sure this thing will be resolved once and for all. In 2018, they said it was a stopgap measure. So you would have expected that 4 years down the line, they would have looked at the issues and progressively phased out some of these issues that we are having every now and then. We're also calling on the CSOs, that is the civil society organizations. They should speak up on some of these things. And I want to just tell Ghanaians, if you think it's just an issue for law students, you would have shot yourself in the foot. Why do I say that? Few years down the line, it may be your son or your daughter. This is the time to speak about it. And or it may be that you need legal counsel to deal with a case for you, and then you realize that, there is no one there to support you. Because we still have people in the prisons who are on remand for years, just because they don't have institutions like legal aid going to their aid. And it's not that we have so many lawyers and we want to limit it. You wonder what the interest is, but it's very baffling, and it's not something that we should encourage, especially in the face of all these, the limitations we have, the rulings of court, the provisions in our constitution and other documents. I think we should go back to these things and make sure that we rectify this once and for all. It is unacceptable. It is not something that we will accept today, we will not accept tomorrow. If they bring it 100 times, we'll fight it 100 times.
At least one thing we can speak of, people have been speaking about community service and all of that, at least plea bargaining as assented to by His Excellency the President in recent times. At least, we are saying the system is bad, but these are some things that at least work in a certain positive angle to take care of some of the situations you are talking of. So some minimal changes, hopefully, they will see the light and do better.
How long do we have to be coming here? It started in 20...
but I've had interactions with you about 3-4 times on these same issues.
Exactly.
Charlie.
Exactly.
We'll leave it to the gods, the legal gods to deal with it. So we've had an interaction with Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, Member of Parliament for South Dine, also on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament, Justice Abdullahi, lawyer, lecturer at the UPSA School of Law. And you just heard from Hassan Asari, President, National Association of Law Students. But coming up, we have quite a conversation for you. But before that, Jose, that's hello. How about treating your family to a summer holiday in South Africa? Come journey to South Africa for a good time in our beautiful country. Get to know the locals and our languages. If you're looking to let your hair down, relax, or you're just in the mood for some fun family-friendly adventures, South Africa has got everything you need. This summer, Wazanila. Come this side and experience a holiday worth talking about. Let's go to South Africa. But hey, hello Ghana. Happy moment is here. Let's storm World Cup Qatar 2022 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water from Casapreco Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water. Text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780#. Option 2, and follow the prompts on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks, and more instantly. So don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water, and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform, and this advert is FDA approved. Terms and conditions do apply. Now stay with us. When we return, it's about that dicey situation in the Lower Manya and Yellow Krobo municipalities of the eastern region. There have been clashes between a military-backed task force of the ECG and some of the residents of the communities. It's all on the back of prepaid meters and more. But guess what? The community has been without light for days. Businesses are suffering. People are up in arms. Why? What is the explanation? What's the way forward? That conversation with Bernice Abubeido Lanza right after the break. Stay.